the right-wing Republican judges don't want Christian Sharia law, right? I mean, the people who went through law school and maybe Roy Moore did, but
the people who think that the laws of the United States are based on the Bible, right? Supreme Court judges who believe that the United States laws are based on the Bible,
right,
are in a position to try to make it more based on the Bible, right? Bring it more in line with their beliefs. Of course they are.
I just think that what we're talking about here, there's some very key elements that are different between the religions about what they can possibly advocate easily to the adherents, and also huge societal differences. You're talking about a country, there's so much that would have to change when you're talking about the United States as a democracy with free speech, human rights, and a huge melting pot of lots of different beliefs. You can get up to where they toe the line of putting us in danger, and then it's going to snap back. I don't see how. But even if
there's going to be a backlash.
But even if there was a theocracy, there are elements that remain.
As long as the society underlying it all stays the way we're used to it being, yeah. But we've seen other countries that had societies that were not savage, right-wing, extremist, fundamentalist societies turn practically overnight into such places, right? Afghanistan.
Of course, Afghanistan is a whole lot smaller than we are.
Sure, but there are examples of that kind of thing happening, right? That is just true. And there are examples of self-described Christians who use the Bible as their book. Like talking about the militias in Africa, I forget which nation, but I've read a number of these stories, right, where they do incredibly violent, savage things and claim that it's all driven by that. So it's possible to get there from those beliefs. And right now, we have relatively extreme right-wing judges in the Supreme Court. We have both...
See, and I wouldn't say that any of them are extreme.
Okay.
Trust me, I fucking hate Scalia and a lot of the others because I think they've got some fundamental flaws in the way that they go about doing things. But you're never going to get even Scalia to side with dominionist philosophies. He's not an advocate. He just has his view of what the Constitution does and doesn't allow, and it's not as broad an interpretation as what it should be for a modern world.
His line against it is softer, or not as right. Not as far,
the people that
not as far against it
power,
as others. I mean, then I think there's a reason why people like that are, Bush's new appointees are the kind of people they are. I think it's intentional.
I sure wish we could use our tenuous connection with CFI to somehow get Sam Harris to join us for this conversation sometime.
Yeah. I don't think we're going to resolve it here between us. I mean,
I think one thing we can all agree on is basically, Islam is definitely a threat. Regardless of whether they're more of a threat or less of a threat than fundamentalist Christianity, maybe sometimes liberals do go too far in being nice to the religion.
I am a self-described liberal, and I'm certainly not going to sit here and tell you all liberals are, perfect, good people who I agree with automatically just because I call myself that.
That's right.
Right? I mean, we get all the wacky New Age kooks.
That's true.
We do. I just know that. I mean,
I would,
don't having a problem with that.
Having once been a conservative and now being extremely liberal, I'm no friend of religion on any front, and I've spent hours on both the shows talking about just how you can do the sorts of things that you're saying. You can justify and use Christianity to do the sort of atrocities that we've seen it do and you've talked about. I just think that it overlooks the societal differences, and one of the reasons is because I think that most of these Christian fundamentalists who have been co-opted by neocons, they have an illusion of more power than they actually have. They're pushing their agenda. But the people that they voted in can't make the changes that these people want to make. It continues to show up over and over again. And they're simply being used for their vote to keep people in power, even though the changes they want don't ever actually get made.
I hope you're right.
I do too.
I hope you're right.
I could be wrong.
Could that have been said by a Jew in
Nazi
Germany before the Nazis took power? I mean, yes.
Well, okay, you've always, I mean, now you're talking about essentially, well, you couldn't have
here's the thing.
military
coup.
coup.
I mean, I think I think it's perfectly fair to say, look at our culture, look how long it's been relatively stable, that people agree on these fundamental principles, and look how long the structure that seems to give rise or to promote people thinking that way has stayed in place, and to feel relatively comfortable that there's only some crazy wackos in Christianity that want to take it that much further, so probably they're going to fail. And I think that is reasonable enough that I'll say you're probably right. I just don't think that we should turn a blind eye
to
clear examples of where that has proved not to be the case in other circumstances again and again, and certainly not let down our guard. Now, getting back to Sam Harris, I basically agree with him. Right now, given a choice of what to oppose, right, entire nations of the fundamentalist theocracy that want to kill us, that clearly that's where the effort should go, highest priority. But if, and I haven't gotten this from what Russell quoted from the article, but if he thinks that is so much more important that we should stop paying attention to what's going on our own shores, that's where I'd have a disagreement with him.
Yeah,
and I don't know if
and I agree. Now, and I'll just say this to finish this off, because I just thought of this, and it might be a way of kind of like framing what I was saying and why.
Yeah.
Basically, what we're talking about, in order for what your suggestion could happen, and it certainly could, that's a revolution. And there are certain key things that need to take place in a society. There are things that have to exist in order for a revolution to occur. Mm-hmm. And those things don't exist in our society right now. There's not the mass oppression and need and lack of food and government. Well, there's huge governmental distrust, but basically we're a bunch of spoiled fucking brats.
Yeah.
And
call me paranoid.
We don't really care enough about anything.
I think a lot of the apparent mismanagement that we're seeing from our current administration may well be intentional for the purpose of making this country more like that. Personally.
Did you see the Doomsday Code documentary thing from the BBC?
No.
You remember Tony, I think it's Robbins, who played Baldric on Blackadder?
Yeah.
He went to Jerusalem, the United States, and other places. He did this documentary. It's available on Google Video. Somebody linked it. It's called the Doomsday Code, and it specifically talks about end-timers and how there's this movement to continually support Jerusalem and continually do things that would bring about the Christian end times and the rapture.
Right.
It's a really good documentary.
Wow.
I try and shy away from some of those because they get kind of conspiratorial. And I even though I just went off about the neocons using the religious right, I realize that's a little conspiratorial
well,
too.
That's actually what they've written that they want to do.
Yeah.
I mean, there are actual documents out there by them saying, here's what we're doing.
Plus, it's obvious.
This was a pretty solid little documentary. It's about an hour and a half. I highly recommend you watch it. It was good.
Cool.
And I'm feeling